Angels on My Path by Jean Kagabo Kayiranga. And the young person who read that is Fabrice. Fabrice Ngabo. Is Fabrice there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, awesome, awesome. So
Hi,
please,
everyone.
yes, so please introduce the book. Just give us a summary of it, and
Yes,
then basically what you got out of it.
yes. So my name is Fabrice Ngabo. I'm talking to you from Gatineau, Quebec, in Canada. I got a chance to read the book by Kagabo, Kayiranga, Jean-Léonard, which I found out that his dad liked hyphenated names. Almost, actually, all of his siblings. He has a half siblings, and he has um, an extended family of direct siblings where him and his mom and dad, where they share the biological parents. And the fun fact that I had when I went into this book, if you look at the picture, it starts off as him being the only person highlighted. So when you go in here, you start thinking, you start judging the book by its cover, saying, and predicting the end. This is the only person of this family that survived. Which, when you start reading the beginning, you start thinking, I'm going eventually to get to why this picture is there. But little did I know, I was way off from the beginning. If Max is here as well, Max Russell, who helped him write it, and also Kaka, if you're here, kudos on that. The way you wrote your book kept the readers engaged. The book is not about him surviving. Some of his siblings and cousins survived. So when I was reading it, I found out the reason of the title of the book, which is The Angels of My Path. So he starts the book by mentioning what Papa said. And this resonated with me. I wasn't alive during the genocide, but my eldest brother was. And in Rwanda, we have a popular saying, "Utaganiriye na se, ntamenye icyo sekuru yasize avuze." And I realized that a lot of generation, a lot of the survivors were at the age where they didn't get to actually have deeper conversation with their parents to know what their grandfather was about. And in this case, in Kaka's case, he also didn't discover a lot. He heard a lot from his elder siblings, which he talked about the beginning and the few raids and killings of the Tutsi before the genocide against the Tutsi in 1959, in 1973, and so on before that. He heard these stories from his elder siblings. He never talked about it with his parents. So there's a lot of stories that were never told now that are being told by the survivors' elder siblings that are now passing on the torch to them. So the storyline at the beginning, he talks about the sorting of the snakes, as they called the Tutsis, separating them in classes, making sure that they knew who they were, that they didn't have any value in classes, and kids from the Hutu families already knew there were machetes being planned, there were machetes being used to slaughter them. This is way before 1994, as he talks in his book. But what he went on to say, and the reason why he named his book Angels on My Path, is the people, in this case, people that were in charge of the list of Tutsis that to be killed in his area where he grew up, especially Mr. Habimana, as he calls him, sent Mr. Habimana, who protected him, shielded him, even though he was in charge, he was the leader of the Interahamwe, he protected him. He shielded him, housed him and his relatives for about, I think, if I remember correctly, about 3 weeks until he showed him a note that said, they found out that I'm housing you. It's either I give you up or I kill you. Either way, there's no surviving for you guys. So he sent them out. He addresses it as he kicked them out, but I saw it as he gave them a choice. It's either you stay and you wait for your death, or you go on and try to find life after this. And Kaka being 12 years of age, That's brave to lead younger relatives into the wild, into the bushes, because Mr. Habimana had told him, stay away from the streets. There's roadblocks. You are likely to be more noticed, and with your traits, they will know where you're from. People will know you're a Kagabo son, and it's going to be an issue. So he met other people on the way as well, where they were Hutus. They sheltered him for a couple of days, but they knew their lives, the Kagabo's relatives, weren't safe. When I say Kagabo, I want to be clear. There is also a cousin of theirs whose name was Kidente. He wasn't a Kagabo, but a cousin. But I put them in the same because they were a family then. They were separated from their siblings. They were separated from their parents. Kaka was leading the troop without at 12 years of age. He didn't know better. He had to step up and lead. And he met people that those are the angels on his path that shielded him, whether they housed him, whether they even told him, because he met 18-year-old Hutu who was supposed to be on the roadblock doing night rounds. He told them there is a roadblock where you're headed. Stay away from the street. Keep pushing through the bushes to get by. He narrowly avoided death many, many times. And this is people that they knew, as many of the young readers mentioned, these were neighbors, these were godparents, these were godchildren that didn't care about the relation beyond blood. They had gone mad, or in this case, they had fed into the propaganda that was spread by the Interahamwe to the point that they overlooked the relationship, religious relationship, blood relationship, to the point that they were killing their own neighbors, their own teachers, their own nurses. And so he mentions that in his book. And the thing that brought me to realize where the story was going is the point when he starts talking about God. He doesn't deeply go into religious stands, but he talks about a book about the saints where he was reading while hiding at Habimana's place. And this is where he talks about the story of Mr. Habimana and how he was a good servant of the Lord, but due to the propaganda and due to the fear of what he was facing of his inaction as a Hutu, he would have risked his life. So he was shielding them, but they didn't know what he was doing in the morning as president of the Interahamwe in the region. So they didn't know much, but it also resonates if you look at the Bible. Peter also denied Jesus 3 times when it came to his own life. So as it comes to us, we're humans. When we're faced with our life or the neighbor's life, sometimes we may take up decisions that goes against our beliefs, what we preach, what we read in our Bibles. So I read that and it resonated. That's when it started making sense. These are the angels on my path that he made as well. And he talks about another person, Daniel, in the book, that this person was like somewhat of a saint before the genocide, but he was uneducated. The propaganda, the radio saying that the Tutsis belonged in the river to go back to Ethiopia. He didn't have any genealogy to say, okay, how do I separate this? He just believed the radio. And again, as he says in the book, if I'm paraphrasing, but if I'm quoting him, who am I to go against the government that has done their research to say that the Tutsis are cockroaches or the Tutsis are from Ethiopia and they don't deserve to be in Rwanda? Who am I as Daniel in this case? And that's when he picked up and joined the massacres, the killing of the Tutsis in 1994 during the genocide against the Tutsis.
So Fabrice,
Yes.
Fabrice, yes. So I believe the author is with us. So
Yes.
just keep your question ready that you have.
Yes. And I'm about to wrap up.
Yeah,
One more thing that I learned about this as well is the way he speaks in his book. He doesn't speak about the killings until the end. Like there's minor killings in there because he was protected, but unless he was out on the run, that's when he met the dead peoples or the roadblocks. But he doesn't talk about the killing, which was an easier read because after all, it's a book about a survivor. So the fact that he didn't put much of the horror stuff until the end made it an easier read, and it helped. And then you can also see that putting it at the end was kind of like a closure to his own family coming together and accepting. They didn't get the proper goodbyes, but at this point, they got to lay them at rest, which is the proper goodbyes that the family could deserve at the point that after the atrocities.
Thank you very much for that very thorough
It was
summary.
interesting. That's why I had to go into details
we can sense, we can really sense that. So we have the author on the line. If is it Jean-Luc?
It's Jean-Léonard.
Jean-Léonard, there you go.
Okay.
Jean-Léonard Kagabo Kayiranga.
Yes.
Is there any way
Yes.
we can see you? Can we see you? Okay.
Just 1 second.
So if you can just introduce yourself very quickly, tell us where you're speaking to us from.
Hello. Hi. Yes. I am so sorry I came in late.
Oh, no,
Actually,
no,
I'm in
don't worry about
Phoenix,
it.
Arizona.
No, we changed the order on you.
Yeah, and then I kind of got mixed up with the times because we're actually 3 hours behind your time. So we're
no, we appreciate you calling in.
11:49. So
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So
But
you're calling from Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm here now. Yeah. Phoenix,
Yes.
Arizona, yes.
Yes. So quickly,
Yes.
I don't know if you managed to hear any of what Fabrice said about your book and how, what he thought of it. But so what, in 2 minutes, if possible, what inspired you to write that book? Why did you write that book?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join everybody, and be part of this discussion as we commemorate our loved ones who died during the Rwandan genocide against the Tutsis in 1994. One of the reasons why I was passionate about writing my story was because I wanted to leave behind a story that was not going to be told otherwise to our future generations. And it's a story, a sad story that needs to be told to our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to write my story. And also I wanted to write my story because I know that I had managed to have the opportunity, which many other survivors have not been able to. And so when that opportunity came about, I had to basically do what I could to not only write the story, but write it in the form of a book so that I can share with many readers. Initially, when I started writing my story, I was not thinking about the book. I was only thinking about just putting it down and having, saved so that at least I can share it with my children. But I was working with an author as well, someone that actually encouraged me to turn into a book. So, and when he made me that offer that he was gonna assist me with writing it into a book, I had to do it, and there was a lot of sacrifices I had to make, but I knew that it was worth doing for not only me, but also for my fellow genocide survivors.
Well, thank you very much for writing it. And Fabrice, this is your opportunity to ask your one question to the author.
Yes, Kaka, as you prefer to be called. In your epilogue, you talk about reconciliation and forgiving and how it's a long process and how the perpetrators also need to be involved in the process. Given the part that I started with, how would
Yes.
you approach that part with your own children? As in the book, it only says your eldest boy. I don't know if you have any other kids now, but
Yes.
how would you approach that question and telling the story, but with your point of reconciliation and forgiveness and moving on forward as well?
So I believe, first of all, it starts by telling the story and telling the story the right way, in terms of not leaving anything behind, especially to our children. There is a challenge in doing so, because as our children grow, there's a certain age range that you have to be careful how you share your story. But uh you have to they have to grow up knowing what happened, and once they know the truth, it's easier to teach them about reconciliation, um because we don't want them to grow up and find out that we hid this important story, um because there is a chance that they could they could be resentful towards us parents, and asking us, why did we not teach them about this story. um as some of our genocide survivors live overseas, just like me and many of them, uh uh our children do not get that much exposure to our history, because of just the way, the geography and how many people are around you that are Rwandans or Rwandan survivors. So you tend to find that many of our young adults now don't even really care much about hearing about our story, our history. And I think it's not because it's not anything to blame them. It's actually something that it's as parents we should be blamed. Not understanding the importance of sharing this story. So coming back to the reconciliation, so if you have a 20-year-old that is growing up and they meet, a fellow Rwandan, and not knowing our history, it's not something good, because if, let's say, that person ends up being let's just say a genocide survivor, meeting a genocide another Rwandan who may be like a Hutu, for example, and this person, both people don't know anything about Rwandan genocide. So now, once they start hearing it for the first time, late in their adulthood, it's something that I think it will make harder for them to come to reconciliation, because you think about somebody knowing, oh, this tribe killed my grandparents, they killed my cousins, grand cousins, aunts, and all that. So if they now starting to know this, imagine what that does to how they feel towards the other person they've known maybe for many years. They went to high school with, they went to, now they became friends. Now they're thinking, okay, now, your tribe was the one that, was, even though it's not directly likely not from the parents or the family, but they know now that, okay, that tribe was part of what killed my parents. So it's better. I feel like it's better, like, teaching our kids early on, so that as they grow up knowing the history, then they have the understanding, and we can easily teach them a reconciliation at a much younger age than if we try to do that at a later age.
Thank you so much, Jean-Léonard, for calling in from Phoenix, I believe, Arizona.
Yes.
And yes, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Fabrice for taking the time to read the book and for participating. And I hope you're going to stay. I believe I'm going to pass it back to Sandra.
Thank you for having me.